74% of the people gave the wrong answer because everybody before them was giving the wrong answer. Shrikant, there is an Odia proverb. 3 people can prove a goat to be a dog.
That sounds like English, but go ahead.
Yeah. Do you think it can scientifically be true?
It can't. A goat can't be a dog.
Right. So let me ask this question. I'll rephrase. Okay. I mean, the original proverb is trying to say that if a majority lies, the minority cannot do anything about it, right? That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about if the majority is mistaken. Can that actually change the, can the minority also then,
end up being the mistake?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know, and I don't think so.
In general, you would assume that your beliefs are not going to change just because the majority is wrong, right? Especially, I mean, you see a goat, you see a goat.
I have been swimming against the current for I don't even know.
Yes, but that's probably not true, right? So I want to talk about this concept of group conformity. Okay. Let's look at a famous experiment called the Ash conformity experiment done by a researcher called Ash. Okay. So in this experiment, the subjects were shown 2 cards. One card had a single line of a certain length. The second card had 3 different lines. One was shorter than the first line, one was longer than the first line, and one was the same size as the card, line from the first card, right? And then each candidate was simply asked which line in the second card is the same length as the line in the first card.
There was a distinct difference between
There was a very clear difference, okay? And seems like, everybody will get this answer.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, if there is a distinct difference, if I can see which of the lines is the closest matching, I'll of course.
Yeah. So in the experiment,
there was a right answer, correct?
Yeah, there was a clear answer. But the clever part was this, that there was only one person who was a subject of the experiment. All the other people who were asked the question were actually placed there by the experimenter, and they were given instructions to clearly give the wrong answer. Right?
Now the goat proverb makes sense. So because they were giving the wrong answer,
so let's see a video of this example, right? Basically,
in the first test, the correct answer is 2.
1. 1. 1.
But that's the wrong answer.
2.
1.
Good guy.
Once again, the correct answer is 2.
3.
Okay.
3.
Okay, 3 is obviously wrong.
3.
3.
Did he really do that?
You might be tempted to think that that was one weak-willed person, and it was stupid of him to do that.
Yeah, especially after giving the first answer correctly.
74% of the people gave the wrong answer because everybody before them was giving the wrong answer. Okay,
that was out of 4.
Yeah, that was not, in one experiment it went up that high, but in general, on an average, at least 1/3 of the people gave the wrong answer in a situation where that answer was just clearly wrong, but everybody in the group was giving that answer and they couldn't they convinced themselves that the answer was the other one.
I can't even begin to tell you on how many levels this is worrying.
It is worrying. That's why this episode, we should be worried, right?
Yeah, we should absolutely be worried.
Right. So in fact, this is too obvious, right? But imagine a situation where it is not that obvious, right? There is a little bit of a gray area.
Yeah, I was just thinking probably maybe he thought the lines were too close and he was misinterpreting them or something. I'm trying to reason from his perspective and I still can't.
There is no reason. It is just, your brain, system 1, right, wants to conform to the group. Why? Because in the African savanna where our brain evolved, right, if you were not part of the group, you died of hunger. Okay,
Yeah.
you had to be part of the group, and usually that means that if a group believes something, you better believe that, otherwise you're going to get kicked out, right? So now your system 1 really wants to be part of the group. System 2 can clearly see that that's the wrong answer. Tell me, in system 1, which is your instinctive emotional brain that has evolved millions of years ago, versus system 2, which is your front end of the brain, the modern thinking rational brain, which evolved maybe 100,000 years ago, right? Which one wins?
System 1, of course. System 1 wins. Yeah. And in case you're wondering what system 1 versus system 2 is, we did an entire episode on it, which you should definitely go and check out. Please do go and check out. And B, this also explains a lot of the things that we've been recently seeing, especially throughout the pandemic, when there were so many arguments about masks, about vaccines, about I don't even know where to begin.
Yes. So, I mean, again, in this situation, do you think system 2 feels bad that it was overridden by system 1?
I think it should feel bad.
No, the way it works is that system 2 cannot afford to feel that it is wrong, right? So system 2 just changes everything around to make system 1 true, right? System 2 just comes up with reasons on the fly for why this is true, right?
Goosebumps, man, goosebumps.
We think we are very rational people. We think we do everything according to logic. But the problem is that our system 1 takes instinctual decisions, and system 2 then comes up with logical sounding reasons after the fact.
So we retcon it.
Right? There's lots of, so this particular experiment has been replicated many times. This is not one of those experiments which didn't work out later on, right? It has been replicated many times in many different settings,
and in society.
And society, and more importantly, any political leader or any senior business leader knows in their heart that this is true. In fact, they use it.
They use it?
Yes. So if you want to get something done, if you want to get people to believe in something, right? What you do is first get influential people to just repeat it over and over again, right? There are two things. One is that if everybody in your group is saying something, initially you will force yourself to say it even though you don't believe it. Repeat it enough times and you start believing it also.
Naveen just explained the whole culture of celebrity endorsements in that one little explanation.
It's not just celebrity endorsements, right? Let us take an example of a business, right? Where you want to hire a candidate.
Okay.
Yeah. And there are 4 people interviewing that candidate.
Yes.
Now, company 1 has a system where, each person interviews that candidate separately. Then all 4 of them sit together and they discuss. The first one says what they thought of the candidate, then the second, the third, and the fourth.
Okay, fair enough. Makes sense.
Company 2 has a different system where the first person who saw the candidate immediately at the end of the interview sends out a mail to all other interviewers saying, this is what I thought. Now you guys take over from here. And second person does it, and that person also sends out the mail, and so on, right?
Okay.
So each person is building on top of the previous one's assessments. And the third is where all 4 independently assess the person.
And then
no, even before collating, they have to write down their impressions and scores on the individual attributes. After it is written down, then they get together and discuss.
Okay.
Which do you think is going to get better candidates?
I would think number 3 would get better candidates because they're assessing independently, but I'm thinking that's not what happens.
It is. In fact, you're right. Which is, by the way, you just realize that you already in your heart know that this group conformity thing is true, right? Because what's happening in the first 2 cases, especially in case number 2, is that the first interviewer's impressions pretty much will color the impressions of the others. They will ask questions from that point of view, and the interviews, pretty much only the first interviewer is taking that decision, more or less.
I'm 100% sure there is some person on the other side of the screen going, yes, that happened to me, that happened to me. Write about it.
Of course, this is not always 100% true.
Yeah,
Okay. Like we said, I mean, there are 25% of the people, even in the Ash experiment, who just refused, right?
Correct.
And there are people like that. So if one of the four was like that, then they would have, changed the whole situation.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that explains the leaders in business part, but you also mentioned political leaders.
Well, political leaders also do the same thing. See, I mean, if you have been on Twitter recently, you know that whenever some controversial thing happens, right, from both sides of the political spectrum, you end up seeing like 100 tweets which are identical to each other. Why are there 100 tweets? Clearly, one person wrote those and sent it out to 100 people and asked them to post it.
Yes.
Why? Because they are trying to create a group conformity
scenario.
scenario,
Yeah.
right? So, but there is this is like serious, right? In Nazi Germany, why did the entire country go along with something so horrible and so ridiculous? It's group conformity. Most people actually disagreed with that.
Right.
But just generally over time, it became that initially they were afraid to speak out. Then after a while, they were like, oh, looks like this is okay. Everybody is okay with this, so I am also okay with this.
But if they were afraid to speak out, were they forced to not speak or something? Or is it just that same kind of peer pressure that we saw in the video?
Well, it's a little bit of both, right? Sometimes you also know that if you say some things against the majority, there can be consequences, right? So some people keep quiet because they're afraid of the consequences. But there's a whole chunk in the middle who actually they can't handle the dissonance in their brain, right? Their system 1 wants to conform, system 2 says this is clearly wrong, and then the only resolution of that is that system 1 comes up with convoluted reasons to believe what system 1 wants.
But in the case of Nazi Germany, that led to such dangerous beliefs and such dangerous retconning that, wow.
No, but look at society right now. No matter where you are on the political spectrum, if you look at your opposition, you will see this behavior happening, right? People have convinced themselves of things which, as far as you're concerned, are just quite horrible.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, it's not happening on your side of the political spectrum, of course.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Both sides of the spectrum are convinced that the other side is horrible and that our side or whatever side we believe in is absolutely doodh ka dhula and pure and whatnot.
Yeah.
But okay, I get it. Group conformity is bad. So should everybody start thinking independently? Is that the answer? I mean, that's the only side.
No, that's not true, right? One of the things that we should always keep in mind is that if our brain has evolved to be a certain way, right? It has happened over millions of years. So there is a very good reason for it to be like that, right?
Okay.
So we should not lose track of that fact. Simple thing is that in most cases, group conformity is a good thing, right? So one is that groups need to work together to achieve things which the individuals couldn't do themselves. But if you have ever worked in the association of your society or your apartment complex, you will know that it is impossible to get even small groups to agree to trivial things, right? There is a more involved version of this called coordination problem, which is one of the most important problems in all of human life, right? We will do an episode on that.
I mean, if you're watching this by the time we have done an episode, you will find a link to it in the description show notes.
So group conformity is one of the solutions to the coordination problem, right? It will allow you, the group, to reach a decision and for everybody to agree on that decision and everybody to get things done. Otherwise, you will constantly all be pulling in opposite directions and nothing will get done, right? That is one thing. And group conformity also is a thing that suppresses people's evil and immoral desires, right? Pretty much everybody has those.
Except in some cases, clearly. Because Nazi Germany, it went in the opposite direction.
But most of the time, right? It works out in the right direction.
I'm guessing this entire thing about group conformity is like a tool. It depends on whose hands it falls into and
Yeah.
how they choose to use it.
I would put it slightly differently,
Uh-huh.
right? If things happen naturally,
Huh.
it usually works out for the good, right? But when somebody, especially clever,
Huh.
uses it as a tool and weaponizes it, that's when things usually go wrong, right?
Let us all hope that Naveen never decides to become evil, because if he does, the amount of information he carries inside that brain of his, I would be for
Actually,
our future.
one important thing I want to point out here is that, just having knowledge of these things isn't as important. I mean, the people who misuse it often might not even know they're doing this. They are instinctive users of such weaponized sacredness.
Right? Weaponized maliciousness, weaponized knowledge, weaponized everything.
Yes. In fact, this whole concept of groups of human beings is so important and so central to everything we do in life that we have, for a series of 4 or 5 episodes lined up, each one looking at different aspects of what I'm calling groupism. So look out for those episodes. This is part 1.
See, this is why you should stay beyond the end of the episode, because you get information even after the episode has ended.
Thank you. Thank you for watching till the end. If you like this episode, check out these others. You might like them also. And please share with your friends. I'm sure they will also like these. Thank you.